Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about proper running form. I'm also going to go over the biggest mistakes I see and how we can fix those mistakes and the possible repercussions of poor running form. So let's start talking about that in the reverse order of which I announced it. If you have poor running form, you're at super high risk for injury. A few specific things are plantar fasciitis, which is what I talked about on Friday when I posted my video about foot pain. It's inflammation of the tissue on the bottom of the foot, and you'll feel a lot of the pain in either the heel or the sole of the foot. You can also get runner's knee, where you'll feel pain around your kneecap or underneath the kneecap, or patella as the proper name is for it, and IT band syndrome. Your IT band is a big stretch of tissue that goes from your hip down to the side of your knee. And while you're running, you'll feel pain on the lateral side of your knee, so the outside away from the middle of the body of your knee. So those are just a few things you could encounter with poor running form. So let's talk about the biggest mistakes I see and the biggest tips I can give you. To help you guys remember the advice I'm going to give you today, I'll provide you with an acronym. CLAP. C-L-A-P-P. 2 P's. Very important to remember the 2 P's. C stands for core activation. L stands for lean. A stands for arm positioning. P stands for posture. And the second P stands for positioning of the feet. Let's start today by talking about C, core activation. What is your core? Everything down from your shoulders to the knees. However, I really want to hone in on abdominal muscles here. How do we keep our core activated? Bracing the abs. You may have heard that expression before, but you might not know how to do it. How do we brace our abs? Imagine someone is going to punch you in the stomach. What's your natural reaction? Besides to, freak out. Your abs clench up really tight. That's what bracing your abs is. So try to imagine that motion and keep that while running. By keeping your abs tight, just your core activated, you prevent any injury in the lower back. You take any pressure off of it that's unnecessary. You keep your hips nice and still. One of the bigger mistakes I see in runners is their hips going side to side, which can cause a plethora of problems in the body. Believe it or not, if you have pain in one part of your body, the problem is actually probably in a different part. So if you feel pain in your lower back and your hip, it could be coming from your foot or your neck. You never know. The body is amazing, but that's part of why keeping the core tight is so important. It's also going to help keep your breathing a bit more natural, which is also a super crucial part of running. The next component I want to talk about in CLAP is L, the lean. I usually see a lean, but not in the proper angle. So a lot of the time I see something a bit more forward like this, or something further back, kind of maybe with an arch and super upright like this. When people lean back like that, they think that they're keeping their posture upright, which they are, but when you try to keep that component of posture and take away the lean, it actually can cause a lot of problems. So a proper lean is not anything crazy. It doesn't have to be like this. It does have to be forward, just like this. That's about the level you want it at. Nothing bizarre. Let's get to the A in CLAP, arm positioning. One of the biggest things I see with runners is their arms like this, or like super out away from the body, or even just barely moving like that. Or if they're moving, it's all coming from the elbow. I have seen arms all over the place. It's simple, but sometimes you got to think about it a little bit. So we want to start their arms at 90 degrees. And they don't have to be crushing your body, but relatively close. Your elbows want to almost be grazing your rib cage. Almost. Nothing like this. Like I said, pretty close to the body. The movement comes mainly from the shoulder. And I'm not saying you have to do this, especially because that'll keep you prone to this. So that's a little bit much. This is perfectly fine. And this is what it looks like from the front. Some people close their fists. That's fine too. This is the motion I care about, however. Movement coming from the shoulder, arms at 90 degrees, almost touching the body. The looser we are, the more it's going to affect our posture. Also, you may find an instinct to lift your shoulders up. So the tops of your shoulders are close to your ears. We want to resist that, and I'll get into that a little bit more when I hit posture next. Keep the shoulders away. Just like this. Okay, let's get into our first P, posture. I think this is the number one mistake I see in runners. Slouch, head forward. And we get the head forward and the slouching from how we live our lives. On the computer, looking at our phones like this is killer for your neck. I did a video about this where I said, even if you just look a little ridiculous doing like this, your posture, your neck will thank you. So I see this a lot, and we really want to see more of this. What do we start with? The shoulder blades. Rather than keeping them rounded, you want to pull them back a little bit. It doesn't need to be anything extravagant. You don't need to pop your chest out, but pretend like you're going to hug your spine with your shoulder blades. You want to keep your shoulders away from your ears, like I just said. Keep them down and back, like you're going to hug your spine. That's the correct shoulder positioning. Now, when it comes to your head, your natural posture might be like this. How do we correct that? And I learned this little trick. Pretend that you've got something smelly on the palm of your hand. Put it in front of your face. What do you naturally do? Your head pulls back, your chin pulls in, and your ear is then in line with the shoulder. So shoulders back and down, head back, and that's where your posture is. That's going to help with breathing. You notice your breathing is going to become a lot more fluid, a lot easier. You'll be able to run longer. Honestly, the posture makes such a big difference. And you also will see that it goes in hand with your core activation. So when your activated core is really doing its job, your posture will be back, and vice versa. So you won't even really have to think about both of them at the same time. You got one, you got the other. Last but not least, positioning of the feet. If you've ever heard of heel strike, I've got my trusty shoe. Heel strike is exactly what it sounds like. You strike your heel on the ground first, and then the rest of the foot follows, pushing off the ball of the foot. Again, this is what you want to do while walking. While running, if you strike your heel first, especially if you're going really quickly, there's a lot of impact that'll shoot up through the legs and can affect your hips, your knees, your lower back, you name it. So rather than striking at the heel, try to land more at the middle of the foot. A lot of people do the ball of the foot. You may hear that. You can do that, but it's better at the middle of the foot. So I will demonstrate in a minute me running from the front and from the side so you can see. So rather than this, it's more of a this. Also, I see toe positioning is not so great all the time. If you have really tight calves and certain calf muscles that are weak, you'll find your toes go from here to here. We call that duck feet. So in order to resist this, you want to stretch out your calves a lot. Review my video from this past Friday to look into strengthening the calf and relieving the calf muscle. So once you do that, you'll come back to normal. It's super important to make sure your toe is straight while you're running. So like this rather than like this. You even see an instep sometimes. Hint, if you have your foot ever everted like that, stretch your calf and make sure you practice the motion of forcing it in, which is, like I said, what I did in my last video. And the same thing goes if you're in. Try doing an exercise where you're pulling your toes out. So middle of the foot, toes straight. Two of the most important things for running. I hope this video helped. These are simple tips you can immediately throw into your running routine. Like I said, you'll be able to run faster, longer, and be stronger. Tune in next week for some more very useful advice. I'm not sure what I'm doing yet, but I promise it'll be great. Okay, I'll see you guys then.